I am, let's just try that again.
What you do?
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Metacast podcast. That's the podcast that improves itself, improves ourselves, and improves the self in general. My name is Ty, I'm going to be your host, and as always, I am joined by my vigilant co-host, Distance. Tonight, we are discussing situational awareness, which is, I think is a very important thing, and I think it's something that way too many people lack and also don't consider. How do you feel?
I agree.
You agree? Nice. Okay. Well,
we get the blinders on all the time with everything we do. We don't look around. We don't.
Yeah. I think okay. So first off, let's start with what is situational awareness? Do you have like a textbook definition?
A textbook definition?
Yeah.
No. Well, I can find one.
I've got one here. I've got what I found here is situational awareness is the perception of environmental elements and events with respect to time or space, the comprehension of their meaning, and the projection of their future status. So it's kind of broken down into three main parts. There's perceiving the elements in the environment around you, there's comprehending the situation that you're in, and then there's using the current situation to project what the future will be. Do you like the division of this into like three separate topics, or like how does that strike a chord with how you picture this topic?
I mean, it kind of makes sense, but all of those things like kind of work together. But I guess you could like do it in steps.
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of like one like obviously leads to the next. I think it's like it's necessary to first like have an accurate perception of your environment before you start to like comprehend the situation and then like project. I think it's necessary to go from 1 to 2 to 3. But before doing any sort of research for this, I had never occurred to me. I of course knew that you want to be aware of a situation, like as far as just the definition of situational awareness, but I did not realize there was like so much study and effort actually put into this topic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's something that it's necessary in a lot of aspects of life. I mean, you could be a salesperson or like an international spy,
mm-hmm.
and anywhere in between.
Yeah, exactly. That was exactly. That was right where I wanted to go. I would say that this is something that is important for literally everyone.
Yeah. So,
which I
want to talk about it.
Exactly. Well, yeah, but I feel like sometimes, not that it's a bad thing or any fault of us, but sometimes topics we choose are more better geared for like a more narrow audience, or someone that's experiencing trouble in one area or having problems with something or wants to work on something specific. I think this is just a broad strokes thing that almost anyone can use it, and I would say almost anyone could improve their situational awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So what brought this topic to your mind, other than it is part of the 3 series episode that we're doing, 3 episode series, excuse me, that we're doing right now that will cap with self-defense. So it obviously plays into the idea of self-defense. So is it just is that kind of, did it start as a top-down thing that you wanted to get to self-defense and you realized that this was a part there, or was it its own thing that stood out?
Yeah, I think that it's kind of when I was thinking about it before, in many cases, if you have situational awareness, you never have to get to the self-defense point.
Yeah, that is a very good point. Yeah.
Because you were able to discern and determine a situation based on observations and the breadth of experience to understand that this is a place you should be or shouldn't be, or this is dangerous, this is not. This is a place where you're likely to be in danger. This is a place where you're not likely to be in danger. It's just having an idea of what's happening and understanding people and being able to read people and being able to judge people really in a pretty accurate way. It's like kind of like Sherlock Holmes kind of shit.
Yeah, it is. I mean, a lot of it is just being able to understand and read your environment, which is, I mean, that is, probably 90% of detective work, right?
Yeah. And well, with Sherlock, he's got like that superhuman like deduction thing where like he notices like crazy stuff and has some weird like conclusion he comes to about it. And I think there was a Saturday Night Live sketch where they actually did a parody of that it was like Sherlock and he ended up being completely wrong about everything.
I don't remember who was playing Sherlock. Do you remember that?
I want to say, I think it was.
Doesn't sound familiar to me.
It might have been. I don't know who played Sherlock in well, they didn't actually call the person Sherlock Holmes, but it was like something similar to that. It was. I think it was that. What's the dude that like he's basically just doing like a 1940s guy impression all the time? John Mulaney.
Oh yeah,
I think he
such
was
a good
in
way
the sketch. Yeah, I think he was in the sketch, but I don't know if he played like the detective or spy or whatever.
The clip that I found is it's Will Ferrell playing Robert Goelet as Sherlock Holmes. But yeah, I don't know if that's the one you're talking about.
Maybe that's it. I don't know. It might be. It's only like I only vaguely remember it. But you can figure things out, and there's also stuff that you like should watch out about, like telegraphing and things like that. I was listening to Tim Kennedy. He's like this like Navy SEAL guy that talks about. It's kind of funny because if you look at the career path of a SEAL, join the Navy. Go through Hell Week, go through BUDS, train with the teams, possibly get deployed, leave the SEALs, write a book.
Yeah, usually.
That's like
right?
what all of them do. Like that's like their career path now. Like if you are a SEAL that can like speak or you have any kind of verbiage that you can use effectively, then you're just gonna write a book. But he also Tim Kennedy's also like a UFC fighter too, so that just makes him even more trendy. He's the guy you want to hang out with and watch YouTube videos on. But I was listening to him talk about just being careful that, okay, your kid's honor roll student at what school? Okay, great. That's on your bumper sticker. Oh, your kid plays soccer? Also on your bumper sticker. Oh, you've got one of those little like stick figure families? I know how many kids you have, how many pets you have. And like the gender of your spouse, maybe depending upon what kind of stickers you use on there. So he was just talking about how like you really need to be careful about things like that because you can figure things out about people pretty quickly just by looking at their vehicle.
And or in today's world, the digital footprint.
Oh yeah, there's that too. I mean, and for me, like there's a lot there. And I mean, like either one of us, if somebody watched enough episodes of the podcast, they could figure out exactly, where we live, our real names, all that stuff.
Easily. I read a story of someone talked about that. They were like a brand new streamer and they was like their second time streaming. A random person popped in their chat and then just dropped their father's name, their full name, their address, like multiple other things, and then just like left. And that person posted on Reddit because they were really freaked out. And the top comment was someone like saying, in 2 minutes, I found all of the same information. You posted a link to your Twitch on your Facebook, your personal Facebook, which linked to this, which linked to this. And it's just, I guess you don't consider how often you're leaving a trail of breadcrumbs right to so much which you would think is private information.
Yeah. It's, there's a lot of ways that if someone is putting in the effort that they can just track those little breadcrumbs and get to wherever it is that you're leading them to, which would be your identity and your location and all that. And the thing for me also is that it's the idea of looking at possibly, you know, getting a permit to legally carry a firearm.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about that and what that entails and the responsibility required,
Yeah.
it makes me understand there's a lot of situations that I need to stay out of if I'm doing that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff you just don't want to do. You know, there's no reason to get needless conflict with anybody or, you know, anything like that. You know, anything that's going to cause tension or put you in a situation where you're going to have to make a judgment call whether or not to leave the thing on your hip under your shirt or to be like, you know, draw it and then have to deal with all the consequences of doing that. Because even showing a gun to somebody, like, that's aggravated assault.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because by showing it to them, you've essentially threatened them.
Yep.
So you just committed. I think aggravated assault's a misdemeanor, right?
I would assume so. I'm not 100%
So, like,
sure then, actually.
So, you know, it's just all the stuff that kind of goes with it. And I started to think to myself, like, I guess if I'm going to do that, maybe I should practice, like, now, like, being aware of what's happening, what's going on around me. And, you know, it's possible that can save you and save other people from harm. Just, you know, because there's certain situations like where, you know, a guy walking down the road, wearing a black wig and fishnet, some thigh-high heels, and lingerie, that's out of place.
Okay.
But if you're at a Rocky Horror Picture Show screening,
yeah,
that's completely normal.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So it's all about context. So,
yes.
you know, it's like, it's weird if you see someone at a Rocky Horror Picture Show screening, for example, who's subdued and not very, they're not acting festive, they're not looking festive, because people will typically wear costumes and they're all going to be like super, even shy people that go to those that are really into the films are going to be crazy.
Yeah. It's their time to shine. It's their, like, it's what they care about. It's they're among, like, people that are into the same thing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're at like a Rocky Horror Picture Show screening at like a, you know, a theater somewhere, and there's like a whole group of people there, and you notice that there's someone that's like in the corner wearing a ball cap and a hooded sweatshirt, and they're not really interacting with anyone, and they're sort of like to themselves, they're like round shouldered and kind of closed off. It's like, that looks weird. Like, that's odd. That person, there's something wrong here. Whereas, like, you know, if you see somebody in an outfit, like if you see a stormtrooper walking around downtown, there's obviously a problem, right?
It depends on the day.
Yeah, I guess if there's like a Star Wars event going on, then that makes sense. But like, out of context, it's weird.
Yes. Yeah. It would definitely catch your eye out of context.
Yeah. Or in some cases, you might be able to spot somebody that looks normal, but they're acting wrong. And that's an even bigger red flag, you know?
Yeah. See, I feel like, unfortunately, I feel like this happens to me often. I'm not sure. I've heard people say this to me. I don't know how often it happens, but I think that sometimes my just general, like, social anxiety or uneasiness can read as possibly off-putting or dangerous, like you're saying. You know, it's like which is unfortunate that it's like, you try to control that as much as you can, but some of it, you know, is subconscious, and you may be telegraphing without you really thinking about it. And yeah, it can read this the wrong way. Like, for instance, I could very easily picture myself going to a Rocky Horror Picture Show screening, wearing a you know, like you said, a hooded sweatshirt, and trying to kind of just keep to myself, and that can read to someone as like a bit of a red flag.
Dude, if we ever go to one of those, everyone is wearing fishnet.
I would dress as
everyone.
No, I would just have the gold Speedo. I forget the name of what's the character that, like,
I can't remember. I'm not super into the films.
Me neither. Yeah.
I've seen Rocky Horror Picture Show once, like a decade ago.
Hold on, films. Is there a sequel? Is it more than one? You said films.
Oh no, I mean, if I made that plural, I didn't mean to.
Gotcha. I got excited for a second. I'd only seen the first, but
there's another film called Hedwig and the Angry Inch, which is like similar to that. So I might have been, and a lot of the Rocky Horror people like that. That one's funny. Fucking weird. It's really weird.
The Angry Inch is my nickname for my penis.
If only, Yeah, you just need to watch it so you can understand, because it's actually it's weird. It's really weird. If you thought Rocky Horror Picture Show was weird, but
Okay.
yeah, it's like, and that's the thing that people register shyness, especially
Yes.
in males. Typically, shyness is read as creepy. Because a lot of the time when someone acts anxious in a situation, people think there must be a reason. Like, why is this person acting this way? Do they have something to hide? Like, and it's not. It can be really off-putting. And so, I mean, like, I'm sure there's plenty of situations in which I've read something as like, creepy or out of place, that maybe it was just someone that was a bit anxious in the situation because they have an actual like problem with anxiety. But it's more often than not, what looks out of place probably is out of place.
And more often than not, erring on the side of
Mm-hmm.
caution is going to be better.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, because I mean, you can see, like, there's this guy that has this oh crap, I can't remember the name of his channel now. Oh, it's a YouTube channel called Active Self-Protection.
Okay.
And he does like a lot of interesting. It's weird. The guy used to be like a Christian pastor. And now he like does firearms training and like takes apart video footage of violent encounters and things like that, and like tries to help people. He tries to help people understand how to handle yourself in situations, and it has a bunch of like principles that he outlines in different videos and shows what people did well, what they didn't. The problem with this channel, though, is that if you read the comments, it does attract some like sadistic people that just want to watch violence.
Yep.
And that's troublesome. But there's a lot of videos where you'll see, like, there's one where it's like this young man gets off of a bus, and these guys, it's a surveillance camera, two different surveillance cameras near the bus stop, and there's these two dudes that like walk up, and you can see that like the way they're looking around, they're trying to find someone, because they want to find like someone that they can rob. And the guy, one of them pulls out I forget what they're called. It's like a knife, but it's like curved.
Oh, okay.
It's like a you can get folding knives that look like it, but like it has a curved blade. But the one of them, like, gets the blade out, and then like they kind of like chase the guy down, and I think that one of them grabs him, and I think he ends up pushing him back. So the guy with the blade actually like slashes at the kid. Then they end up on the ground, and they're kind of like on this guy. Well, one thing that really bothered me, actually, this is beside the point, this has nothing to do with situational awareness, but someone just walks right by, like, looking at what's happening, and does absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And like, to me, it's like, I understand that it's maybe not always a good idea to be a third party to something like that, to jump in. But for me, it's like, it's pretty clear that one dude has a weapon. And on top of this person, like another one is like clearly they want something from this individual. They're trying to steal the kid's backpack. But you can see, like, if you look at the guys, because if you watch the kid get off the bus, he's very like, all right, got to get home.
Okay.
Like, looking down very to himself. And if he was paying attention, he would have noticed that these guys, like, that they didn't look right.
Yeah.
This behavior was not normal for a bus stop. You can see them like kind of like trying to find something. You sort of like see the other one of them look at the other guys like, oh yeah, that's our guy. Like, yeah, we're gonna take his shit. And I do it all the time. It's like I get focused on whatever task I'm doing, like whichever thing it is, like that. I'm punching in my PIN number at the ATM, but I'm only paying attention to that ATM and punching in the number, when in reality I should be looking around, or maybe just not at an ATM at night. How about that?
Yeah.
Like, I forget what comedian it was, but who was it? Might have been Eddie Murphy. Maybe Chris Rock said that nobody ever visited an ATM at 4 a.m. for a good reason.
Probably, honestly.
Yeah. If you're getting money out at 4 a.m., it's probably not for a necessarily a wholesome cause.
More often than not nowadays, I just want, like, what do people do with cash that isn't illegal? You know what I mean? Like, it's like cash is very rarely used now. Like, it's
pay at the parking deck, maybe.
Yeah, it's event stuff and stuff like that.
Buy a
like
hot dog at the baseball.
Yep. But other
But
than
that's
like
it.
a
That's it.
particular event, yeah, it's pretty much like you're gonna use your card or some sort of digital monetary transaction every single time. Yeah.
And there's just a lot of situations where I think it pays for us to be aware of what's happening. Like, for
Yes.
instance, like if you are doing a presentation at work, it is important to be aware of what people that are looking at your presentation are doing, and if they look engaged or if they don't look engaged, or if someone looks confused, you can understand that maybe you should maybe say a few more words about the point that you're trying to make, so perhaps they can understand it. It's also really helpful. I don't know. I was some public speaking. I think it was a YouTube video on public speaking where someone said that at the end of a presentation, if you notice someone looked confused, when you ask the point where it's like questions, does anybody have questions, to make sure you make eye contact with one of the people you think was confused.
That's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good point.
To try to help them be more comfortable, like to engage with you and ask you the question, because it happens so often, especially at work, where it's like, any questions, and it's, oh man, I was hoping you would use the cricket thing right then.
Oh, I actually, I'm too scared to from what happened last time.
Because
I don't know which button it is.
Intro music again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but like, yeah. And the thing is it's not because nobody has questions. It's because people, for whatever reason, like don't want to.
Yeah.
And that's something that can make it difficult. Like if you're in a conference call, I think that video conferences are better to have, so you can actually be more aware of what people are doing and saying. And like there's situations where even if someone is, do you ever meet somebody who's like silently judgmental all the time?
I get that feeling from people, but I'm not sure if they're being judgmental, but I would assume so. Yeah.
Because a lot of the time when I'm out with friends, I have one particular group of friends that one of our buddies is very like, he's always like disapproving. And it's like, we could have such an interesting dialogue if he just like, instead of making that disapproving look and looking down, like maybe he could talk to us and we could learn something from him. So I'll be like, hey dude, I would love it if you could put some words with that look. And oftentimes it's like, oh, well, you know, whatever. I didn't mean anything by it. I'm like, oh, bro, come on.
Oh, I get what you're saying. Like, as far as, okay, I misunderstood the question. I was thinking of someone that I'm not engaged with at all, that I'm seeing that they look silently disapproving versus like part of the conversation. You can tell they're like, they want to disagree or they want to, but they, I get what you're saying.
Some person at the edge of the room, I don't really give a shit, especially like if I don't know them. I mean, it's of no consequence, but it's like,
unless it's the dude at the Rocky Horror Picture Show wearing a baseball cap.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he might be there to kill you.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I get more with what you're saying. Yeah, I've definitely experienced that though. Had someone that you can tell that, you could tell that they want to say something or they disagree with what's being talked about, but just not speaking up. Yeah.
Yeah, and to me, like, I consider that, one, non-productive. Two, more or less, well, productive is the same thing as useless, but I also think of it as cowardice to me, because it's like you're afraid to talk to me. Like, why should you be afraid? Like, don't be that. Like, engage with me and teach me something. You know, maybe I can learn something from you. Maybe you can change my mind on something. Maybe we can change each other's minds. Maybe I can end up in a different place and you can end up in a different place that's not where either of us are right now.
Yeah.
You know, like that, there's so much benefit to that. And like, I just hate it when people pass that up.
I agree. If it's a dialogue or a situation where dialogue is open, I completely agree. I had a situation similar to that yesterday though, that I kind of like, I feel like it was the right place for a silent disapproving look in the way that I did. But I walked in on the director of operations giving our warehouse crew like the morning meeting, and he was just kind of giving the rundown of like, everyone's going to be working from home except for us, and talking about like, and then it, led to talking about the pandemic that's going on and everything. And the way he said something about I forget exactly how it was worded, but a lot of us were meant to believe that as soon as the weather warms up, this would be gone. And that was just, that's where I kind of just gave a silently disapproving look that was like, And it's I like that. I don't feel that was a good place to like interject or say anything, but at the same time, just maybe have that on my face. Like, nah, that's not at all correct.
It depends on the context or the situation. If you're aware
Yep.
of the type of situation you're in, then you may actually know whether or not it's beneficial to say something or speak up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just the idea of, because you can even think like, if you're in say let me think of a big city I actually know reasonably well. If you're in Houston,
Okay.
and you're in Montrose, you're going to see a certain type of individual, certain types of behavior, certain types of demeanors, and even like dress. And then Midtown, which is essentially the same area, but it's a little more yuppie.
Okay.
You're going to see different stuff there too. So it's like,
okay,
where are we? We're in Houston. Okay, we're in Houston. We're in Midtown. Okay, we're in Midtown. We are on the sidewalk outside of Lucky Jeans Company or whatever. It's like, okay, so what is near us? What area are we in? What time of day is it? What's the weather like? So like, if you see somebody walking down the street in fucking Houston, by the way, where it's like 90 fucking degrees in the winter, if it's like, around now, you see somebody walking around Houston in a hooded sweatshirt and some like really old sneakers in Midtown, there's something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Because A, they're not dressed for the weather. B, this is like a yuppie area.
Mm-hmm.
And like, people in this area are, they're going to be typically dressed in a flattering fashion or be wearing like new sneakers. Like, they'll have like a brand spanking new pair of Jordans or Adidas on or something like that. They're not going to be, also, you're not dressed for the weather. So it's like, why not?
Exactly,
there's something wrong here. Because it's the time of year, it's the time of day, it's the town, it's the area of the town. It's, there's all kinds of things you need to consider for like what behavior makes the most sense. So like, for instance, you see two people talking, what looks like talking, at the front of the Walmart parking lot at night, underneath one of the parking lot lamps. That's a pretty normal thing.
Yeah.
But if you see two people at the very back of the parking lot, next to a car in the darkest part of the parking lot, that looks suspicious, doesn't it?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Because like, they might be waiting around a stranger's car to like mug them or carjack them. Maybe, I don't know, whatever. Like, I feel like it's probably normal for people to buy drugs at the dark spot of the parking lot of Walmart. Honestly,
maybe.
I
would assume trying to break into the car. That's like, because I know that like Walmart parking lots, they're fine with you leaving your car there for long periods of time or whatever. So there's probably a lot of cars that have been sitting for quite a while.
And the reason why I say Walmart is because they tend to have enormous parking lots.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like a lot of areas, and it's just, it's pretty clear. I mean, if you look around and pay attention. But here's another thing that's really important, and this is actually something that I heard. It was Tim Kennedy actually talking about. Was the idea that you need to have a breadth of knowledge and you need to have experience. So you need to actually get out and interact with enough people so you can get better at reading and understanding people.
I think that's a really good point you were getting to with the almost like the low risk situations where, for instance, giving the presentation at work, you're not in a physical risk by assessing the situation incorrectly. However, the same people reading skills I think apply to dangerous situations. So it's like it's almost like a great low risk way to practice these skills that will hone them for situations that could possibly be dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's ways that you can. There's a difference between someone asking you for money and somebody asking you for money while they're playing with the bottom of their shirt. Because like that, the second one's suspicious because it's like, why are you doing that? Like, are you reaching for something? Or when someone, a really easy way to start a mugging is asking somebody what time it is.
Oh, really?
Especially when they're not wearing a watch. You ask them what time it is. They reach into their pocket to grab their phone. You hold their hand in their pocket. You point your gun or your knife at them, and you say, "Why don't you give me what's in there?"
Okay.
You know, like it's because you draw their attention away. Like it's a really easy way to do it. Like if someone asks me, especially if they're like unreasonably well mannered about it, like, pardon me, sir, could I please bother you to tell me the time? I'm like, who the hell are you? Like, why are you? Who talks like that?
Yeah,
like, it's like, or like they fake a British accent, like that would be weird. Like like the kid that says, "What was that? What? It was like that the. Pardon me, sir. May I have another? Like, what is that from?
Oliver Twist, I believe.
Yeah. It's like if someone like does like an impression of that kid, it's like, wait a second.
And then later, the Pink Floyd album, right? Where, how could you have your pudding if you didn't eat your meat? Isn't that the same scene?
I think so.
I swear, like he's asking for more. Yeah, maybe it's not, but.
But it's like there's just all kinds of things. Like, and I'm always wary of someone asking me for money because like it's a good way to get somebody to get their wallet out. Yeah. And I mean, call me paranoid, but it's like there's just certain things in certain ways, or like even now, like because for anyone that watches this later, if that's a thing, this is March 18th, 2020, meaning that we're in the midst of this crazy event involving the new novel coronavirus, COVID-19. So that's one that we're going to talk about too, because it's a current thing. So in case you're watching this later, so this might be a few months before both of us become violently ill, but who knows? That when you're out now, this whole idea that like, you want to keep a distance between people, trying to stay, 6 feet away is the guideline.
I've heard 3 to 6.
You want to kind of be aware of who's around you too, trying to adjust that space.
Even I'm just trying to be more aware of like surfaces I'm touching, where my hands go after that. They just things like that. Yep.
I went to last night. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go pick up some beer. So I got like 2 18 packs. So I'm good.
Of Corona, please, right?
No, it's Rolling Rock.
You should have bought Corona. I would have loved to see the look on the cashier's face.
Well, but I wore like my girlfriend was over, and I was like, also, I'm serious, as I get some like nitro gloves that I usually wear when I'm working on my bicycle. And like I just walk out the door and I'm like, they're gonna think I'm trying to rob the place. But I go into the gas station and the person that's working the register is also wearing gloves. I'm like, yep, she doesn't think I'm crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. Crazy times call for crazy measures, man.
And maybe that was too much. But then that's another thing, is it's like now there is behavior that would be strange that's actually not now.
Yes. Yep. I agree. Yeah.
So
that's like, the whole idea of like understanding in context what's going on. Yep.
Like, what time is it? What's going on? Where am I? And what part of the place that I am I? Like, it's like, if you're in Target, are you in the children's clothing section?
Probably.
Or are you in the little food section there? well, I mean, I might be in there because they're the only clothes that fit my tiny ass. But
excuse me, do you have this in a youth large?
At least you're tall though. Like, I mean, I can't.
I'm tall, but I'm all legs. So like shirts are always way too long for me. My torso is like literally this long, and then my legs are just the rest.
Which is weird because, I mean, my torso is a lot longer than my legs are. But yeah. So and that's, and like certain types of behavior, like you expect for people to be brash and crazy at the Super Bowl. Yeah. Like if you're there, like people with painted faces and things like that. But if you see someone that's like subdued and not particularly excited, or not even happy, it's like, what you doing, bro? Like
you wasted a lot of money on that ticket if you're not enjoying yourself.
Yeah. And then, there's other stuff like that, it's actually really funny because you probably, and I don't mean you personally, but the general you, many of us probably have, especially in the southern United States, like have been around someone that was open carrying a handgun and didn't even notice.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
like just thought it was a cell phone.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not saying that people that are open carrying a firearm are dangerous. In fact, I mean, I don't know that. I just think that's silly, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also like it's weird, you know. Or you
Well,
know, when we talked,
it is something you do want to be aware of, though, right?
yeah, like you kind of want to
yeah.
know.
It's not
But
necessarily that doesn't make them a danger, but I would say it definitely makes them something worth keeping an eye on and could possibly be more dangerous. But
yeah, or if a person that's not them comes into the Best Buy you're at, because I actually saw somebody open carrying at a Best Buy,
mm-hmm.
and someone that's not them comes in and says like, open the fucking register. I'm gonna go find that person with the gun and hide behind them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
like that's another thing to know. And then also like on the subject of that active self-protection channel that I watch sometimes, there was a point where it was a grocery store of some kind. It was one of the grocery stores like where you walk in and there's like a customer service area that's kind of like cut out next to the entrance.
Yeah.
And this guy is in the customer service area, and these two people walk in. One of them actually grabs a cart.
Okay.
And
they walk in together, like obviously together.
Yeah, they walk in together, but sort of like separated by a few feet.
Okay.
And one of them grabs a cart, and the other one, the male, actually pulls out a gun and starts like yelling at people. And this dude, like in the customer service section, you can see him on the camera, like reaches for his gun, and then he like runs over to try to, you know, put his gun on the person that has the weapon out and is yelling at people, but doesn't notice the other person. So this woman pulls out this massive revolver and just hits this guy square in the chest with a big ass round, and the dude dies. So it's a situation where it's like you're trying so hard to help that you're putting yourself in harm's way to try to stop someone from hurting people, but you didn't notice the other person.
Yeah.
So that's another thing, is that like instead of, because that's what'll happen is it's like it's an animal thing.
Yeah.
So this person has a deadly weapon. This other person also has one. They're trying to stop that other person from hurting people. So they just zero in, blinders on this one person.
And reality, more often than not, I think it's a survival thing. That's probably been beneficial. Yeah.
It's like if you look at how a dog fights one thing at a time.
Yeah. Well, and I would think probably the vast majority of human history, it would be basically one threat. Like when we existed as prey, which I would argue we've, you know, kind of removed ourselves from the food chain at this point. But like when we were basically prey, like, yeah, we would need to worry about basically one predator at a time. And I think that like you're right. I mean, the brain has limited bandwidth, and it's you hyper focus on that one thing that you know matters, and that can mean blinding out some of the other shit, which can be very dangerous. Yeah, that's scary.
That's one thing that you need to realize, is that when someone attacks you, look over your shoulder kind of thing, or someone's being aggressive, look around first and then determine, you know, what's happening.
Which it's interesting because you're basically, like you pointed out, it's an animal thing. You're having to learn to fight an instinct and train yourself to dull an instinct and widen your perception. Then
it's like, it's like many of the things that we talk about is just trying really hard to overcome that, to train yourself to be different, and to get used to it. And in all seriousness, I'm not kidding. I mean this. This is not a joke. I'm not saying this in like a satirical or humorous fashion. I think real-time strategy video games are good for that.
I would agree. Yeah.
Like they teach you to be aware of all the things that are happening. Instead of like zeroing in on this one thing and being distracted, you need to recognize all the other stuff that's happening at once. That, you know, maybe like, let's say, you know, jujitsu, and, you know, this dude came at you or tried to hurt your friend, and you grab them, you put them on the ground, you have them in like an arm bar or some kind of choke. Well, while you're sitting here cuddling with this person, somebody else is around and they're nearby and you had no idea. And that's the thing that you always need to be careful about. But, you know, the thing you said about just dealing with one predator, yeah, that's fine. But what if you're being hunted by wolves?
Yeah, I don't know how wolves hunt. I know that as a pack, but I don't know as far as like when it comes to attack. Is there usually one wolf that leads the charge, or do they do the raptor thing where one of them distracts you and they flank you, or like?
You mean the Jurassic Park Michael Crichton raptor thing?
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
I think that. Did you ever read zoo books when you were a kid?
That doesn't sound familiar. No.
I vaguely remember reading
Zoo
one of them
books.
where
Just it's like
you know,
ZOO books or what?
yeah, they were just about like different animals.
Zoo books.
They were like these little magazine-sized books about different animals. I think I remember reading one of the
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I remember these always being at like the doctor's office next to the
Hell
highlights.
yeah.
Yeah, there was
I
always
had a
highlights and zoo books. Yep.
yeah. I had a teacher that would get those, and I remember the wolves one. It actually showed like the path that wolves usually take when they fight,
Oh,
and I'm pretty
really?
sure it's like I'm pretty sure it's like an ambush kind of thing.
Okay, that would make
Like that
sense. Yeah.
there's like one group that flushes and the other group that kills, and usually I think lions do that too.
That sounds right. Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, it sounds like that would be the most effective. If you're, I mean, you're not just gonna want your entire team to W key at the enemy. Like,
Yeah. I don't know what that reference means.
oh, like in
Oh, W is the forward typically on the keyboard.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
He doesn't use WASD to move. So actually, that would be okay.
I used some weird archaic thing that actually my brother-in-law actually taught me when I was a kid. That's what he used for Half-Life. Hey, if you're watching, bro, Half-Life. Remember that? Yeah.
Half-Life 3 coming soon.
He doesn't play games anymore. Yeah. Always and Forever will be coming soon.
Yep.
I did notice that Lee did mention in chat in here about being bullied and things like that.
Yeah.
And the thing is, for me, is like I was too, actually, quite a lot. So, and that's actually one of the reasons why I'm so like I'm so into this kind of stuff about trying to do everything you can to stay out of a situation where you may be a victim of something, and then also learning what to do if you're in that situation. And that you don't always need to get involved in everything all the time too. Like there's as an adult, that there's some situations you probably don't need to get involved in. I think if it's clear that someone is actually being harmed or whatever, that and that there's clearly an aggressor that's being unwarranted, then maybe you should. But who knows? Once again, situational awareness.
Yeah.
Take enough time to try to determine what's going on before you just jump into a crazy situation.
Like the example you gave earlier, I don't know what's correct. Like we talked about the person just walking by and how frustrating that could be watching that, but at the same time, it's like of course you saw the video, I haven't, so I'm not sure exactly what the layout is like. I'm not fully aware of the situation, but I could see just by numbers, if it's two people attacking one, at least one of the attackers has a weapon, and then I'm the only other person there. If neither the victim nor I have a weapon, now it's just 2 versus 2, but they also have a weapon. It's like that still may be an always losing fight. That it's like, is it worth actually trying to step in, or like it may just be like turning one victim into 2.
And it really depends. It depends on the situation too, because I mean, most of the time, people that attack someone like that, if it's down to 1, then the 1 will run. Because that's like a pack, like predator mentality that and that's how predators work. I mean, you're not going to go after the big like the big like built buck with like the huge rack of antlers or whatever. If you're like, I don't know, do mountain lions kill deer? Whatever. I don't know anything about what I'm talking about with predators, but you're gonna go after like the little injured one that's easy to kill. Like you're not going to get in a fight with like the big, strong, like bull, you're not going to do that because it's going to run you through.
Yeah. You always pick off the weak of the herd. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to touch on what Lee just said though, because I forgot to actually finish my point. Yes. I think that's the best way to possibly handle that. Again, I need to see the situation fully to make that judgment, but walking by and doing nothing, I think is wrong. Even if the situation warrants that you probably don't want to get involved, I think you still want to at least make someone else aware that the situation is going on and possibly get that person help. I don't think it's ever defensible to just like walk by, do nothing, and
yeah, like even if it's like, hey, you call the cops, call the police now, like. And that's the thing, is actually, if you get in a situation where something like that happens, it's always important for someone to issue commands, because if you speak in like strongly enough to somebody, then they'll be like, okay, I'll call the cops. Of course, then it's going to take a certain amount of time for the cops to get there, but it's. And another thing is like, are you equipped for the situation too? And like that was the whole point of the last one, was being ready, like being physically ready for the situation, is that when something like this happens, I want to be as useful as I can. And for me, like I'll always have a weapon of some kind on me anyway. I mean, my pocket knife is a box cutter mostly.
Yeah.
It's a tool, but it's also a weapon. But and once again, you also have to consider the consequences for you and also the people that you care about.
Yes. Yeah.
And if you're gonna get involved in a situation in which you could possibly be seriously harmed or die, you need to make sure it's a situation that's worth doing that in. But then, of course, that's a whole other list of things that you have to consider in the situation outside of just being aware.
Exactly. Well, yeah, there is. I mean, there is a lot to consider too, and that's I think where one of the tough part comes in is we are bombarded with so much information, and our brain is really not good at paying attention to like more than one thing at a time. So like you're saying, this comes down to training yourself to just being different than what you are. You have to like find a way to dull the instincts and dull like the animal brain and just kind of like override that basically.
Yeah. And another thing that really hinders the whole process is the temptation to want to be stimulated or to attempt to get something done using a mobile device when you're moving around or walking around places. Like, who was that? I don't remember the comedian, but he was talking about when you it's like, you're driving and then you get your phone out and you text someone, and then the next thing you know, you look up and you're home.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I think that probably happens too much.
Yeah, and I know that like everybody likes to be like, oh, those fucking millennials and their phones, like, which is funny because it's like those fucking humans and their phones.
Yeah,
it doesn't really.
Yeah.
And it's like that everybody like wants to complain or bitch about that or whatever, but it's like did I tell you about when we were in Italy for work?
I don't
No, it was in France.
It
was in France.
Oh, okay.
We were at a cafe in like a little town, and a German lady, actually, a really old German lady, walked by, and the word, because you know how German, there's a lot of Germanic words in English.
Yeah,
there's like I knew she was counting, like that, how many of my colleagues had their phones out.
Oh, okay, yeah,
like,
yeah,
shamelessly.
Yep.
And I was like, everyone's like, French people are rude. I'm like, no, the rudest person I met in France was German. Not to say the Germans are rude, but that particular person happened to be. But that's the thing, is like there really is a problem. Like, it's really difficult for you to be aware if you're just focused on a mobile device. And for me, the best way to avoid bad situations is thinking like a bad person.
Yes.
So like, if I see someone walking down the street at night fucking with their phone, like, I'm gonna walk up behind them, hit them in the back of the head with a brick, and take their shit, because they're not paying attention. It's easy.
Yep.
They're not the big strong bull. They're the little weak, distracted.
Yep.
Feeble.
One of the like super unfortunate things that I'm like kind of realizing thinking about that too is like the way our modern society is set up. It kind of wants you to do that. Like, we have so many demands for our time and stuff now that it's like, you're supposed to multitask. Like, I've got this commute where I'm on a public bus. Now's where I'm answering work emails rather than being aware of who's around me and what's going on. Like, I need to use this time to keep up or I'm going to fall behind.
Yeah. And like, I think that a lot of us feel that way. I mean, we seem to be very, 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 very busy people. And I feel like that too. Like, sometimes I feel like I have no choice. Like, that if I really want to perform, if I want to keep my head above water at work, that I need to, do these things. Or maybe it's personal stuff. Like, I need to order this thing, or I need to pay this bill, and I don't have time to do it. Because I have all this other stuff going on. So whatever time I have available, I need to use to like do research on this thing or whatever. And I'm not saying that it's impossible to be aware of where you are and what's happening if you're on a mobile device, but it's just making a point to make that a secondary or tertiary thing.
Yeah, it does take the effort.
It is that
yeah. Which it is like, I do think it is probably far too common for a lot of people not even to look up from a device at all during, one entire situation. Like I pointed out, getting on public transportation. I guarantee it happens very often that someone that entire duration of the ride will be glued to their phone screen. Probably you could quiz them when they got off the bus, like how many people were there? Can you name one colored jacket that someone was wearing? Like literally, like probably did not take in one ounce of the surrounding. But
dude, have you seen I don't know if it was like The Mentalist, but like the shows where they basically take people that aren't quite so good with dating and they put them on a date, and it's like this guy goes on a date with this woman. She goes to the bathroom and then she comes back, but the guy doesn't notice it's a different woman.
Oh wow, that's funny.
Or like I think it was someone's at a bar or like at a bakery or a butcher shop, and then the person that's working there bends down to pick something up, and then someone else gets up.
Yes, I've seen that exact thing.
Different person.
Yeah, within literally a second like that.
Yeah. But I think that it's just, you can be aware of the situation and you can keep yourself out of danger, but it's just about paying attention.
Yes.
And that's one thing that I figured out recently about people that think they suck at cooking. It's because they're not paying attention. That's why they think they suck. They let time get away from them.
Yes. Yeah.
They don't pay attention to exactly how much of something is supposed to be in a recipe, or what to mix with what, or when to put what in. It's just paying attention. And a lot of people are just really, really bad at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think, like we're talking about, I think it's almost in our nature to be bad at it in a lot of situations. And it is just like you have to focus on it. It's not gonna come naturally.
Yeah. It seems that we're either hyper focused on one thing or basically doing a summary survey of all the stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like a tiny minuscule bit of all of it, or a whole shitload of one thing.
And we really want to find, of course, that balance in between, where we are, of course, and again, focusing on the main thing you're focusing on. I don't think either of us are saying the advice needs to be every time you're on a bus, you don't take out your phone. No, it's just if you're doing something on your phone, it's the same as what is the rule in driving? Is it like 90-10 or whatever, where it's like 90% of your focus is going to be on the road in front of you, but you also need to be checking your mirrors every once in a while and glancing at what else is around you. It's not just glued to the road in front of me, doesn't matter what else is going on.
Yeah. If we just did that, then the likelihood of crashes would increase.
Yeah.
And even then, most car accidents are because people aren't paying attention.
Yeah, that's what I think. It's way more than just being, if someone struggles with cooking, there's probably like many facets of life where literally it is just pay more attention.
I mean, there's people that I work with where it's like one person isn't paying enough mind to communicating properly, using the proper words in a clear fashion, and the other person isn't paying enough attention to listening to that person and understanding what they're saying. And there's just so much like head in the cloud stuff. And the thing is like people that don't listen seem really unintelligent, and I don't think they realize that.
Yeah, no, and that's true. That is very true. Yeah.
And it's not actually because you're not smart. It's just because you're not paying attention.
So what do you suggest? I mean, are there, do you know of any like specific exercises to help pay attention, or like what can people do as like a first step?
It's like that thing that we did when we were hanging out the other day, like when it's like the form of meditation where you actually try to take a survey of what all of your senses are experiencing. Like that's one really good way to get good at that, is because you'll notice the sounds that blend in, like the white noise in the background. Like, right now it's I'll take out one of my headphones. Like I can hear my refrigerator running right now. I can hear the sound of my neighbor pulling in just outside. I can hear the fan in my in my computer, both of the fans in the computer. And if I take things in, I can recognize the color temperature of the light from the lamp behind the computer. And I don't really smell anything right now, but if I focus on that, like it's just little practices of paying attention. And there's another thing that, as you know, I like coffee a lot.
Yeah.
That drinking really good coffee or like really good whiskey, or eating like a really complex dish, like Indian food or something like that, that you can try to pay attention and focus on the tastes of what it is that you're tasting and try to see if you can compare those to other things. Like that's just yet another way to do it for me. And then you can take those little moments of just focusing on stuff to then look around your surroundings and recognize what's common behavior in each situation that you find yourself in, each place that you find yourself in, each time that you find yourself in. And if you're able to do all those things, then you can get better at it. And it's also, I think in the military, they say, keep your head on the swivel.
Okay.
Just looking around all the time, just, what's going on, where who's doing what. Riding a motorcycle has actually helped me a lot, because people are trying to kill you all the time.
Yeah.
So you have to pay attention, or else you'll probably get ran over by someone that's not paying attention.
Yep. Well, I do think the I like the like, not to toot my own horn, but like I like the driving. I guess it's not like a metaphor, but I feel like that same practice, when applied to a lot of what we're doing, if we just, try to say every once in a while, it's like, okay, let me look away from the road and what else is going on right now. I think that just like building those habits in day-to-day life, even I like the meditative tactics like that. I feel like the more you do that, even though, the practice of you doing it in your living room without much of an environment going on, it's still just building the habit of that becoming something that your brain thinks to do.
Yeah. Which is funny because that actually goes hand in hand with the quote I found this week.
What is the quote? What do you got for us?
Yeah, so this one is from Stephen Kotler. He's an author and a journalist and entrepreneur. He's really well known for his work on human performance, and particularly as it relates to the flow state.
Okay.
That became like really fashionable and well known recently.
How do you spell his last name?
Kotler. Stephen Kotler.
Kotler. Okay, thank you.
Training in high stress situations increases what psychologists call situational awareness, defined as the ability to absorb information accurately, assess it calmly, and respond appropriately. Situational awareness is essentially the ability to keep cool when all hell breaks loose, because attention and pattern recognition are so heightened by flow. Training in the state radically increases situational awareness.
That is going to bring us to the end of another episode of the Metacast podcast. If you are watching this on YouTube and you've enjoyed this episode, hit that like button, subscribe to keep up to date with what we do, and comment below and tell us what you do to practice situational awareness. If you are interested in further taking part of the conversation, or even possibly being a guest on a future episode, you can join our Discord. The link is in the description down below. Don't forget, we will be live next week, Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/TylaTV. Thanks everyone for listening, and have a great week.